Hello, this is Bernadette Carpenter, as many of you probably already know, and I'm going to go over the grant application with you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about action research and about innovation and how you need to incorporate all that into the grant application. I am also, and I will show you on the next page, going to share this PowerPoint with you so that you'll have access to it at any time. The first thing, when we first started with the grant, we talked about innovation, and that's one thing that we included in the Race to the Top grant, was that we wanted this to introduce some new innovative practices into our region, and we wanted the teachers and the administrators and all those folks to be a part of that, and the students. So when you identify what innovation really means, because we had several definitions, we went back and forth with it. We finally came upon one we felt was really what we're doing, to begin something new or to introduce. So it's simple, people can understand that, and we felt like that was a pretty good definition for us. Now, there are innovations in the way educational systems are organized and managed, and the instructional techniques or delivery systems. Also, there are innovations in just the way students are included in an active learning process. And the list just really goes on and on. There's all kinds of innovations out there, and you can be as creative as you want to with this and think outside the box. It might be something that someone else has done before, but you could add to it and make it even more innovative. Sometimes what was old to someone else is new to you. So just kind of think on that, think about what could be innovative, and you can research and find some stuff also. An element of KVEC's mission is to identify, support, and promote innovative practices in education. So that was, when we got the Race to the Top grant, that was one of our missions that we wanted to accomplish. And we wanted to be there to support those educators and students as they were about to dare greatly. So many of you have already dared greatly. You have presented at the summits and done a wonderful job, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of you all there. But so we want you to have that opportunity to dare greatly, and we know that sometimes you don't think you can step outside that box, and you just need that little push, and you need to see other folks that are doing things also. So when you're thinking about your grant process, keep this in mind. Now, first thing that we decided was we will practice transparency. And when we talk about these learning innovation grants, you have to keep in mind that these are untested and unproven innovative practices many times. And that's okay, because we want folks to try new things, because sometimes something that no one ever thought about will work great. Sometimes you might find something that is proven to be effective and it has been used before, and you can, like I said earlier, just build on that. But we want to be here to encourage you all to be the inventors of innovations and to develop evidence-based projects over time, so that these interventions can be held up, and later on folks will be able to review and demonstrate their you'll be able to review and demonstrate their effectiveness in the years to come, or we can look back and show how it built on the data. We encourage all of you all to use action research designs so that over time we can do that. Because if we don't use the action research design, then we won't have that data to prove that what you all did was correct or was successful or didn't work, for that matter, and how you're going to do it differently. KVEC showcases and highlights the work of innovation grantees. We have summits in the fall and the spring, and we also have an online portal. It's called www.theholler.org, and on there you can review current and previous grant recipients' work and videos. If you just go on the Holler, you need to create you an account if you haven't done that. I know many in the region already have, but if you haven't, it's time you do it, because you're missing out. There's all kinds of wonderful stuff on there. And you can communicate with other folks in the region as well. So on there, to be able to see some grants that have already been done, you can go up in the right-hand corner at the top of the page on the holler, and you'll see Summit, a Summit tab. Just click on that, and that'll take you in, and you'll be able to see each year's people that have presented in the fall and the spring. And you'll see their projects that they had. So that might give you some ideas, but don't feel like you have to go steal some of that, because you've got more ideas coming in. And we don't want things that are repetitive, I'll tell you that. Some things can be, because like I said, it's innovative for you and it's new for you. But to put you on a higher level, and I just know this from where I've seen them score because it's an outside agency, it's a committee that scores the grant applications when they come in. It's not us. But I know from the scoring that they've done in the past that if you come up with something new, that puts you a step ahead of someone else. So just kind of think about that. Try to come up with something really innovative, but also if you see something on there that you think, boy, I'd really like to do that. I think that's pretty innovative. And you could add your own little twist to it. So it'll give you some really good ideas. And if you are awarded a grant, you'll get to be on there. So now I'm going to go over this slide step by step. I haven't been reading them in their entirety. I've just been kind of summing it up. But I want you all to really understand this. An ARI Learning Innovation Grant must address an important challenge in education, pass through a competitive review process focused on the project's design, and that means that it's not us. We do not score here. Like I said earlier, we send it out to, it's a committee that is not involved with anyone here in this region. Demonstrate the promise of tangible improvement in teaching and/or learning. So when you're writing that grant, keep that in mind, that it has to be about what is happening in the teaching and the learning. How are you changing your teaching, your strategies, whatever you're doing, and what's taking place in the learning? How is it affecting the students? Are the students how are they going to benefit from this? Because that's what it's all about. In the end, and keep your focus as you go through the grant writing process. Keep your focus on the students and how it will improve their learning. Not that they'll get an iPad and they'll be able to get on this and that and they'll be able to do, different things on it. How does it improve the learning? So always keep that in mind. Keep your focus there. Award recipients agree to present their proposed innovation at the Regional Fall Promising Practices Fire Summit and present their associated results at the Regional Spring Action Research Fire Summit. And these are great events. In the fall, it'll be October 24th, and in the spring, it'll be April 16th. It is a mandatory requirement. You must be there. You sign off on that, and we'll look at that page at the end, but that is something that you commit to when you apply for the grant. As you will see when you get on the holler page, those presentations are videoed. It's very important that you are there to present your presentation yourself. Action research. Now, we've talked a little bit about action research, and I think sometimes when folks hear action research, it kind of scares them because they think it's a big research paper like we used to do in college, but that's not the case at all. This is research that you're doing against what you're doing in the classroom or in your school. So it's you comparing to something that you've done. It's not a research paper by any means. And action research is about the improvement of practice. What kind of practice do you want to improve on? The understanding of a practice, or improvement of the situation in which the practice takes place. So you're looking at something that you want to improve upon, and you're going to compare it against something else that you've already done that might not have been working. You might take two groups and compare them against each other, try one thing on one and one on the other, and see which is the most effective. So it can be just it's what you're doing there in your room. Now, the application requirements, and I want to say this, everything is in the Learning Innovation Grant application. Everything I'm going over, all this information is spelled out in there, but I just wanted to go over it myself, put it in a PowerPoint, and it'll be something that you can just refer to. Okay, we're looking on page 5 at the application cover page, and this must be included with your application. Now, it's very important that you put all this information in here. There is a purpose for everything that we've asked for. Of course, we have to have the teacher's name. The grade level is very important because when we schedule the presentations, we try to put like grades together. So please be sure and put the correct grade level in there. The number of students involved. When we do our research, we're looking at how many students are involved for the money that we're spending. And the folks that are giving us money are looking at that also. So we have to track everything ourselves as well. So make sure your correct email address is in there. Sometimes I've gotten them and it'd be the wrong email address. Well, I can't send you notification that you got the grant if I don't have your email address. And, you know, there might be another reason. I mean, I'll be sending you stuff over and over and over if you're awarded the grant. So please be sure and put your correct email address in there. Phone number, you know, you can put your school phone number, but it's not a bad idea to put your personal number. If you look on the front of the grant application, that's my personal number. It's my cell phone. And because I want people to get a hold of me anytime. Sometimes if you call the school, it's kind of hard, because people are busy and they're in and out, and you might be out at break or whatever. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to put your your school number and your cell number. Also, please include your school name, your county, the school address, city, zip code. All that's very important. We have reasons for putting that in there. And it's actually, when we organize it, it's in a spreadsheet, and all this information is put in there, in that spreadsheet. Now, here is something that will, if this page is not completed correctly, if all signatures are not on there, you must sign this paper saying that you agree to everything in the grant application and date it. Your principal does. And the reason for all these people signing is we want everyone to know what you are doing. We want them to understand that you are applying for this grant, and that they will need to monitor it throughout, and they need to make sure you get your information, your materials ordered, that you get information that's sent to them on out to you. So your principal must sign it, the innovation coordinator must sign it, and the superintendent, because he needs to be, or she need to be aware of what's going on. And then make sure you put in your project title there on the very last line. Make it something catchy, you know, something cute, and I'm not very good at that, so I'm not very good at giving examples of it because I'm kind of black and white. It is what it is. But if it's creative, sometimes that catches maybe the grant scorer's eyes, but make sure it does go hand in hand with what you're doing in your grant application. Okay, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. All right, as you look on this slide also, we talked about the cover page. We'll talk a little bit about your area of focus or your research question, and that goes hand in hand with your title. So what is your identified problem or practice? You have to address that in there. You have to come up with something that you want to try a new strategy or something with. Then you have to include your action plan, and it's a minimum of 250 words, but you can write more, whatever it takes to be specific and let that scorer know what you're doing, because you're going to be scored on a rubric that you've probably already looked at in the grant application, but it's at the very end of the grant application, and that's what they use to score. So make sure you tell exactly what you're doing. And And here, I mean, I'm terrible about this because I'm really bad to know what I want to do. And sometimes I leave out the really important parts because I know. And sometimes I have to take a step back and tell folks, okay, wait a minute, here's what I meant. So be very specific, because you're not going to have that opportunity to back up and say, well, this is what I meant. So think it through. What will you implement to address that problem of practices? What resources do you need? Who's going to be involved? Are you going to work with another teacher in your building? Are you working with some kind of community organization? How are your students actively involved? Tell what those students are going to do. Include examples of what they're actually going to do. Include like a timeline. When are you going to do this? And what's going to take place during that timeline? Be very systematic with it, and study the impact that specific strategy is going to have on your specific problem. So you have to address all that in there. Determine how you'll evaluate the project outcome. What kind of data or evidence are you going to be collecting, and how will it be evidenced? And when you hear data, you think numbers a lot of times, and it can be numbers. It could be anecdotal notes from students, maybe from other teachers. It could be pictures. It can be videos. But if it's pictures and videos, you have to document the process the whole way. And it's very important. I'll say this right now. If you're awarded the grant, it is very, very, very important that you take pictures and you video everything that you can, because we want all that uploaded to the hauler to share with folks and show them what you've been doing. Plus, it's your documentation. It helps us and it helps you. It helps us to keep getting funding, which in turn helps you. The budget. We'll look at the budget narrative page. It's on page 8 of the grant. We'll look at that in just a second. And I will say this to you. You don't just complete that budget page. You have to also complete a budget narrative. On that page, you put down, you're going to put the description of the item or activity that you're going to be doing and the projected amount. Now, it may be a different amount once you get, to ordering and stuff, but you should try to research and see basically about how much it's going to be, because you cannot change this unless you send a written explanation of why and what you want to change it to, and it has to relate to what's already in here, and we have to get approval from USDOE. So it is possible to change it, but try to be as accurate as you can. Do not change it on your own. If you're awarded the grant, please keep that in mind, because we can work with you and try to help you with that. So once you have determined what your description of the item is and what you're going to be doing and how much it's going to cost, then you come over here on another sheet and just type that in. Go line item, whatever you said you were going to buy in that first line, then come over here, write down what that is, and tell exactly how you're going to use that and how that's going to impact the student. Then you have to have a completed project summary. Once you have, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. I'm not going to talk much about that because I've got the 8 questions that'll take you through that and help you with it. And please include a digital photo, because we put you on the hauler, and if you're awarded, and we really need that photo ahead of time. But if you are already on there, you have a photo, and we may ask for a new one, though, for you to upload a new one, just whatever you want to do at that point. So the application cover page. You don't leave anything out. Incomplete applications will not even be scored. I think I kind of went over this a while ago. Okay, the Action Research Cycle for Learning Innovation Grant. It's on page 6 in your grant application. This is where you will identify your problem of practice. You will learn more about your issue. You'll do some research. You can research on your own. You can research with your partners there at work. You can do it independently. You can do it with other folks. But there's all kinds of research out there to help you to look and find things that would work for your problem of practice. Then you'll develop your plan of action. You'll explain how you're going to systematically study the impact of specific strategy on a specific problem. Now, you'll see that I've included that numerous times throughout this PowerPoint because I want you to keep that in mind. I don't want you to forget that you are being systematic about it and that you are systematically, which means you have a plan in place and you are following that plan, and you are you're not just going here, there, and everywhere. You know, you have that plan and you're following that plan and you're studying the impact of a specific strategy or a specific problem. So keep that in mind, and like I said, you'll see that all through this PowerPoint, and it's in your application numerous times. Now, this is your promising practice. When you come in the fall, if you're awarded the grants, and you come in the fall, this is kind of what you'll go over and show what you plan to do, and you'll talk about all that, your specific strategy that you've chosen or your specific problem, and how you've systematically studied the impact of it. So also, though, you will include at that point how you plan to implement it. How do you plan to implement the plan? How are you going to collect and analyze data? You know, put that in there. Tell exactly how you're going to do it. How often are you going to do it? You know, are you going to do it monthly? Are you going to do it weekly? Are you going to do it every 2 months? Put specific times that you're going to be collecting the data. And how are you going to do that? And you're going to look at that data. Once you have gone through all this, if you're awarded the grant and you get to the point that you have implemented it, you've collected and analyzed your data, then you're going to communicate those results. Now, many people don't put how they're going to communicate those results. You're going to communicate those results at the summits. You're going to communicate them on the holler. You're going to communicate them possibly to your peers at your school, maybe to the school board. There's a variety of places that you can communicate those results. I know definitely you're going to do it at the fall summit and the spring summit. So, but there can be others. Say that in your plan. Say how you shared with your folks in your building. You know, if you're a third grade teacher and you're doing something that's really great, then you need to share with the other third grade teachers. So put that in there. How are you going to communicate that? Then you'll look at it and you'll look at the data and you'll say, okay, you'll reflect back on it and you'll plan for a new cycle. So this is the action research cycle for the Learning Innovation Grants. It's about identifying what you have a problem with. It's about finding a strategy or some specific way that you can address that problem. It's about getting a plan in place, putting it into action, and using data to determine if it worked or not. And you know what? Sometimes they don't work. And that's okay, because you've learned a lot from that, even if it doesn't work. And you'll know how to reflect. When you do your reflection, you'll know how you need to refine it to try something new with it. Now, I broke it down a little bit more in each one of these slides, and I'm not going to go through and read every bit of it to you, but what you saw there on the slide before, it is each one of those steps. Well, when you look at this, I broke it down, step 1. And, you know, it's basically what I've just gone through with you, but I felt like that maybe you need this in the PowerPoint because it kind of gives the explanation with it. If you don't want to listen to me talk, you can just look at the PowerPoint. One thing I didn't say, I don't think a while ago, was to develop specific questions to guide your research into the learning problem. So when you have identified that learning problem or problem of practice, then you need to stop and think, okay, why is this a problem of practice? What are the specific questions that I need to have answered in order to guide my research? And like I said, don't let that word research, you know, tear you up, because it's just you. It's you in your classroom. And all this must be identified in the application process. Share with your partners there, ask them about stuff, review available information, literature data on the learning problem. Now, develop your plan of action. One thing I will tell you, and I'm not going to repeat some of this other because it just talks about, being systematic to systematically study the impact of that specific strategy on a specific problem. I told you I've got it listed throughout your many, many times. And it's also in your grant application several times, but that's to keep your focus there. This is your promising practice. That's what you're going to do. And the plan should address the learning problem, including how you would gather data on the plan's effectiveness. And we talked about that a little bit more in that other slide. Now, the strategy you choose, it should be innovative. When you look at the rubric on page 9, you can see how important it is to score. So the rubric is in the application on page 9. Let's look there at the rubric. So what you need to do, and I have this in there somewhere over in the PowerPoint, but if you look at this, it's asking for innovation, for project goals, project design, the impact, plans for project evaluation, the budget, sustainability. So they're going to be looking at all this. Do you want to score 3? If you want to score 3, go down through there and make sure you have addressed everything that you need to in that rubric to score a 3. And not just you score, let your colleagues score with you, let your principal score, have your innovation coordinator score yours, and then you can make improvements based on that. So be sure and refer to your rubric, and you will share your plan at the Fall Fire Summit on October 24th, 2018. That's when you'll come in, you'll tell what your promising practice is, how you're going to address it, and you'll talk about your plans, all the plans you have for implementation and how you're going to collect that data, just the whole plan. So that's your promising practice. That's your promise that you're going to implement. So I think I pretty much went over this, but you collect data to answer your research questions, analyze that data, and you're looking for findings with practical significance. So sometimes you might need someone else to sit down with you and help you analyze it because another eye never hurts, another eye or two. So communicate the results, you summarize your observations and thoughts, develop a format for communicating what you have learned. And I'll tell you that in the fall, what you do is you create a poster that tells the story, but in the spring, you do a PowerPoint. So in that PowerPoint, you should be able to put all kinds of pictures. You should be able to, all your data is going to go in there to show what you have learned and what actually helped to address that student problem. So keep that in mind, and you'll share your findings at the Spring Fire Summit. Also, even before you share, you're going to be reflecting, and you should be reflecting all year long, because I've had folks that had to change some things that they had planned. It didn't change their problem of practice, because we can't do that, but they saw something wasn't really working effectively, and they decided to try something else, even though they'd tried that. But if it's a failure, that's okay. Then you pick up, we don't want it to be a failure, and we're assuming it's going to be a great success, but there are a few times that things don't work out as we planned. We had one girl that she felt like she wasn't having enough time in the classroom to work with individual children, so she decided she was going to do a flipped classroom. Well, I've had many, many people do flipped classrooms, and she got the stuff, and they've been successful, but she got the stuff and she videoed and everything. Well, the kids, she felt like they weren't watching it, and they just weren't getting the instruction that they needed, even though she was able to help them more individually. So what she did was she used those videos to help her do the instruction during the day. So, you might start out thinking you're going to totally flip the classroom, and then you end up using it another way, and that's okay. But based on this cycle, Based on this cycle, you will consider your conclusions, your implementations for practice, strengths and limitations of your research. Did you do the amount of research that you really needed to do to be able to implement what you chose? Maybe you're going to have to do some more research to determine how you're going to refine that to be able to use it again, because we want it to be something that's sustainable. And then next steps for the teaching practice, that'll come in once you've refined and determine what you want to do next or how you're going to make it better, think it might work. Then that's when you'll determine those next steps, and that should also be included in your PowerPoint at the end of the school year. Well, not actually the end of the school year. It's when you come in April to do the Fire Summit, April 16th. You can make adjustments to your instruction, your research questions, and just plan for that next cycle, because you don't want it to go by the wayside. If it's something that worked really well, I've seen people throughout the years that something worked and they just kept building on it and making it even better, and that's when it's really, really effective. Now, the project summary. I said this over there, but I have questions on this all the time, even though it's in the application. You have to have a minimum of 250 words, but you can have more, whatever it takes to tell that. I mean, don't write a book, but be specific, and whatever it takes to tell specifically what you're going to be doing, till that scorer can look at that and they know your problem of practice, they know what you're going to implement to address that problem of practice, they know what resources you're going to be using, they know who's involved, they have examples of what those students are going to do, they know the timeline, and how you're going to evaluate your project outcome, and what data and evidence will be collected, and how will it be evidenced, how will you show that evidence. Now, to help you write your project summary, on page 7 in the grant application, there are 8 guiding questions. And we came up on these, we developed these 8 questions when we were doing a training on action research and how to use action research in the grant. And we were using those questions, and some of the grant recipients that were there and some ICs said, well, why don't you put this in the grant application? Because I think this would be so helpful to people that are writing it, because it gives them a guide. So that's what we did. And it'll help you plan that systematic study. And based on your response to these questions, you answer these questions and answer them specifically, and then you'll take what you've put in them and you'll actually write a project summary. Now, you'll have to put in a page to do that in your grant, because you're going to have to type that in. There's not a place for it in there. You do answer the questions. That's part of the grant process. Sometimes we get them and people have not answered those questions. They just want to go straight to the project summary. Well, when you do that, your application is going to be laid to the side when it goes to the scorers, the very first thing, because I can tell you, if everything is not included, they will not score it. So you won't even get a chance for them to look at it and see how it does on the rubric, because you won't have everything included. So be very specific and keep your focus. This is very important. Keep your focus on what you are doing, how what you are doing is going to impact the students and their learning. You know, it's about the students and their learning. And I included a sample that we used once when we were doing some training, and it's on the next page. And if you can't blow it up big enough you can see it, I can share it with you. Now, it's just adapted from a project that was submitted by a high school social studies teacher within our region. It doesn't have a name on it or anything. But please keep in mind, this is only a sample. And please don't feel like yours has to look exactly like this. It does include all the components that your project summary has to have, but it's not the only way to do it. There are other ideas. This is just a sample, because some folks had asked if I had a sample. Now, the budget narrative, we talked about that a little bit before, and I said I was going to go over it a little bit more, but I'm going to tell you, on your budget, if you do not include page 8, the budget form on page 8, completed, and a budget narrative, like I said earlier, I can tell you from past experience, it's going to be laid to the side. You may think you've got everything right in here on page 8, but if you don't have that budget narrative that coincides with that, then it'll be laid to the side and won't even get scored. So please make sure you put it in there. And remember this, you can't just say, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. It has to be something that's going to have a direct impact on student success. And you have to show how it's going to have that impact on student success. What are you going to be doing with it that will make student learning take place? Okay, I repeated myself there that it must have both those because I do not want you to forget. The scoring guide, we talked about that a little bit ago when we went over some of that other stuff on what had to be in the application. But please use this when you're working on your grant and have other folks score it. This is the rubric that will be used by those scorers. So please make sure if I know what I'm going to be scored on, then I'm going to try to make sure I've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. There's an assurance page on page 10, and on that page are the things that it's mandatory, the things that you must do to be able to be awarded this grant. And what you do is you go through and you check off that you agree, and if you don't agree, don't apply, because these things have to happen. We are accountable for the money that we give out for Learning Innovation Grants, and we have to hold you all accountable or we will never be able to, we won't be able to get funding anymore. So read page 10 very carefully and know that when you sign off on it, you're committing to everything on this page. You can't come up and say, I didn't know the summit was on that day. That won't work. When you make a commitment, that's what we're trying to teach our children, and I know that's what you all are trying to teach your students and your own children. When you make a commitment to something, you stand by that commitment because your word is your bond, and that's what my dad always told me. And, like I said, we are held accountable, and therefore we have to hold you accountable. So check off that you agree. You must sign below there. And it says, I understand that by accepting this award, I agree to abide by the approved guidelines listed above. And you sign there and date it. Then, and there are no exceptions, and then your innovation coordinator must sign. And that page must be completed in order to make it, the application to make it to the scoring process. So please make sure you complete that. We've gotten them before and them not completed. Most people do. Most people are right on it. But I just want to make sure to say that because we have gotten some that have not been completed. And they were just put to the side, didn't even get scored. Now, important points, just to reiterate some stuff. Proposed innovations should be framed around specific teaching and or learning goals. Grants should be innovative and follow the action research process. All parts of the grant must be submitted in order to go to the scoring process. The budget, and this has caused people to be put aside, not even get scored. So, 2 of the best grants I've ever seen in my life got put to the side because they put down that they needed more money than $1,000. Do not do that. Only it's $1,000 or less. If you don't need $1,000, you don't have to put that down, but you can get up to $1,000 if you're awarded. So put $1,000. Now, if it's going to take more, you can put that in there, but you have to include the source that'll be paying for that additional cost. So make sure that if you put down that it's going to cost $2,000, you put $1,000 grant application. If your district's paying, put district will pay for this $1,000. Make sure you spell it out clearly because, like I said, last year there were 2 that they were so good and they just got put to the side because they had over the budget, and that's one of the first things they look for. All submissions will be evaluated by an external review team using the enclosed scoring guide. I told you before, it's not anybody here at KVEC. We get someone outside the region that completes the scoring for us. And Learning Innovation Grant applications are due August 22nd, 2018. And they've been out since the spring. And everything I've gone over is in that grant application. There's nothing that I'm telling you new. It's all in there. And probably in more detail because I've tried to summarize it on here. Now, I've included this PowerPoint, so if you want to share it with folks in your school or in just want to get on there and look at it by yourself, here's a link that you can click on. It'll take you straight to it. You can also call me. My cell phone number is on there, and you can also email me. So whatever's good for you, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I am looking forward to getting all kinds of great grant applications and looking forward to working with you guys this year. So if you have questions, please let me know.